Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good afternoon and welcome to Cyber Bridges, navigating opportunities in Malaysia's cybersecurity landscape for Singapore companies, organized by SG Tech in collaboration with our partners, Cyber SG TIG Collaboration Center, Orisa International, and Enterprise Singapore. My name is Raj and I'll be your MC for this insightful webinar. Welcome to each and every one of you. Before we begin, may I please request for attendees to keep your videos switched on throughout the event. Additionally, this webinar proceeding will be recorded and it will be available at our SG Tech website, www.sgtech.org.sg. SG Tech may use some or all of the images or videos in its print publications, digital platforms, and marketing channels. And lastly, you may use the Q&A function to post a question during the session. Please indicate your name and company, example, Janet SG Tech, in bracket form or so when submitting your questions. And selected questions will be answered. We have an exciting agenda lined up for you this afternoon filled with expert insights and engaging discussions. And for this, we would actually like to thank our partners, NUSTIG Collaboration Center, Orisa International, and Enterprise Singapore for working together with SG Tech on this wonderful program. And without further ado, let's dive into our program. To kick off our program, I would like to invite Mr. Ken So, Chair of our SG Tech Cybersecurity Chapter and CEO of Athena Dynamics, to deliver the opening remarks. Ken So is a founding CEO of the group subsidiary company Athena Dynamics Private Limited. With more than 30 years of working experience in the ICT industry, Ken has been an avid industry speaker and writer, contributing to more than 250 thought leadership speaking and featured articles since 2015. He holds a Master of Science in Computer Studies from the University of Essex, UK, and a Master of Business Administration, EMBA, from the Nanyang Business School, a Nanyang Technological University, and University of California, Berkeley, UCB joint program. Let us welcome Ken, please.
Thank you, Raj, for the generous introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on navigating the dynamic cybersecurity landscape in Malaysia. I'm Ken So, Chair of SG Tech Cybersecurity Chapter and moderator of today's panel discussion later. On behalf of SG Tech, it is a pleasure to have you joining us. Today's webinar is part of our ongoing collaboration with the Cyber SG TIG Collaboration Center under the Cyber Growth Pillar, a dedicated cybersecurity-focused export program aimed at facilitating the expansion of promising cybersecurity companies, enabling them to establish their foothold in a global cybersecurity market while also developing and maintaining the strong anchorage within Singapore. So throughout this session, you can expect to gain comprehensive insights into key businesses and partnership opportunities within Malaysia's cybersecurity landscape and hear from fellow Singapore companies on their experience and journey in expanding into Malaysia. Right, so before we begin, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to each of you for joining us today amid busy schedule. Your participation and engagement are instrumental in making this webinar a success. We encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and take advantage of this opportunity to deepen your understanding of Malaysia's cybersecurity landscape. Now, once again, welcome and thank you for being here. Over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Ken, for your opening remarks. Next up, we would like to invite Ms. Ili Salsabila Abdul Razak to deliver her presentation on cybersecurity sector in Malaysia, opportunities and challenges for Singapore companies. Ms. Ili Salsabila Abdul Razak is the country manager for Orisa International in Malaysia. She has been with the company since 2013 and is responsible for managing the trade and market research projects for the country as well as the ASEAN market. Ms. Ili, please.
Thank you, Raj, for the kind introduction as well. Very pleased to join you guys today, and hopefully my presentations today will be helpful, at least to give good insights about opportunities and challenges for cybersecurity sectors in Malaysia. I believe most of the companies attending these sessions would be involved in cybersecurity in particular. Let me know if you can see my slides.
Currently, it is not visible. Could you try again, Ms. Ili?
Can you see the slides now?
Currently, it is still not visible. But meanwhile, as Ms. Ili sets up the screen, maybe we will continue to receive questions coming in from the seminar. I mean, feel free to share your questions with us. Now, Ms. Ili, it's visible. Please proceed.
Okay, all right. So without further ado, I think I'll jump into the presentation itself. A bit about Orisa International. Okay. We are a headquartered market entry consulting firm based in Singapore. We've been around since 1997 with offices across Southeast Asia. Currently, I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, delivering the presentations from this side of the world, very close to Singapore. Aside from Singapore and Malaysia, we have offices in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. We've been working mostly with export promotion agencies and industry associations across sectors as well. IT and communication technologies being one of those. These are the locations of our offices across the region. And then these are some of our core services, if you would like to know. We've been given the opportunity to work with lots of government agencies, especially from Europe and North America, as well as in Asia. So at least in Malaysia, we've been also working with Enterprise Singapore to support many of the Singapore companies coming into the country. And these are a bit about our clients, including some in ICT sector. So let's jump straight into the cybersecurity landscape in Malaysia. As it is a trend globally, the cybersecurity market in Malaysia is also growing significantly. Statista, for instance, indicate an increase from USD 505 millions in this year to over 800 millions in 4 years' time. The major drivers for this growth would be the evolving trade landscapes, also similar around the globe as well. This is due to the need for advanced cybersecurity solutions and services across both the public and commercial sectors in Malaysia. So if you're looking at the trends on digitalizations, for instance, Malaysia has a very high internet penetration rate. We have about 90% of coverage at the moment, meaning that we have more digital users across the country. And as more users are using digital technologies, we are becoming more vulnerable to cyber threats, being exposed to more online platforms and transactions. Aside from that, Malaysia is also putting lots of efforts to become a regional economic hub, which exposes us to lots of cyber risk from both domestic and global fronts as we integrate into the global network of and transactions, trans-border transactions. And then we realized that there is also increasing contribution by digital economy, which is pushing to the rise of cybersecurity investments by both public and the government side, especially to ensure sustainable economic growth and investor trust in providing a robust cybersecurity framework. Before we jump further into the market side, I think it would be useful to also slightly into the regulatory overview of the market. So these are some of the ministries, departments, and agencies in charge. First of all, we have NACSA, the National Agency of Cybersecurity. This is equivalence of I think CSA of Singapore. NACSA, as we call it, is actually a department or a division that is placed under the National Security Council, and they report directly to the Prime Minister via the Prime Minister's Department. And then we have the Ministry of Communications and Multimedia, which is taking care of the platforms, the technologies that are providing the cyberspace in Malaysia. And then we have a Ministry of Digital. Basically, Ministry of Digital is actually quite a new ministry. It was originally with Ministry of Communications and Multimedia before being sort of detached and formed as a single ministry last year. So under the Ministry of Digital, we have a few other agencies and departments taking care purely into the digital sector of the country. So we have the likes of MDAC, Cybersecurity Malaysia, My NIC, Digital National Berhad, My Digital Corporations, and several other departments. As we go through as we navigate the cybersecurity landscape, you'll probably hear more of these agencies and ministries, especially if you're targeting to sort of penetrate or tap into the opportunities provided or spearheaded by the government sector. These are some of the acts that are related to the cybersecurity in Malaysia. I mean, since the internet was introduced in the country, I think in 1990s, we've derived a number of acts. Some of them are quite relevant, some of them are quite outdated, I would say. We have first of all, the Copyright Act of 1997. This is focusing more on the internet transmissions to address the unauthorized internet transmissions of copyrighted works, including the IPs. And then we have the Computer Crimes, which deals with offenses related to the misuse of computers. And then the Digital Signature Act, which paved the way for the licensing and certification authorities regulations, which also provides a legal recognition to digital signatures in Malaysia. And then we have Telemedicine Act as well. Obviously, as it names, it creates a regulatory framework for the practice of telemedicine to enable the medical practitioners to also deliver their services through virtual platforms. And then we have the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. I think if you are familiar with the Malaysian cybersecurity market, this would be one of the acts that are often come out during cybersecurity or cyber threats incidents. Technically, this is a regulatory, this is the act that established a regulatory framework to converge telecommunications, broadcasting, and computing industries. Prior to the establishment of newer acts, this would be the most comprehensive act for the industry in Malaysia. And also because this is the act that is regulated by a single entity, which is called the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commissions, which is under the Ministry of Communications and Multimedia. And then we have Electronic Commerce Act. This recognizes the electronic messages for commercial transactions. If you're talking about the SMS or messages received by consumers from banks, retail outlets, those kind of messages, then this is the act that is regulating those kind of services. We also have Electronic Government Activities Act, which governs the electronic messages between the government and the public. We have the Personal Data Protection Act as well, covering a comprehensive cross-sectoral framework for the protections of personal data in relation to commercial transactions. Though it was enacted in 2010, I think it was just enforced a few years back, especially covering companies regardless of their locations when dealing with users or consumers in Malaysia. And then the latest act we have is the Cybersecurity Bill 2024, which was just passed last April. At this stage, it is still being amended, so we believe that it will be enforced by end of this year. And this is expected to bring the country's cybersecurity laws in par with the Singapore's Cybersecurity Act and the US Critical Infrastructure Information Act. It provides the regulatory framework for 11 national critical information infrastructure sectors, namely the government, banking and finance, transportation, defense and national security, informations and communications and digital, healthcare service, water supply and waste management, energy, agriculture and farming, industry and trade, as well as science, technology and innovation sector. If you're looking at the current state of the cyber security situations in Malaysia, I'm not sure if this is a surprise to everyone, but actually we are the best or the most well-prepared country in ASEAN to counter cyber threats, according to the National Cybersecurity Index 2023. So we are currently at the 22nd ranking, ahead of Singapore at the 31st ranking. If you are looking at the parameters shared by for the report, you will see that Malaysia is a leader in areas such as cyber threat analysis and information, education and professional development, protections of essential services, and protections of personal data. We are actually quite lacking or lagging in the country's ability to manage cyber crisis. If you're looking at the cyber crisis management parameter, we've just got 2 out of 5 points, followed by the cyber incidents response 3 out of 6 points. Looking at the education and professional development, for instance, we've scored a perfect score, 9 over 9. We are also scoring perfectly in cyber threat analysis and information, protections of personal data, protections of essential services, and quite high in cybersecurity policy developments. I think we have lots of blueprints for this sector. Contributions to global cybersecurity as well. I think we are spending lots of talents through the regional neighbors. And then e-identifications and trust services. So these are some of the parameters involved in that report to highlight where Malaysia is in cybersecurity landscape at the moment. A part of that situations though, Malaysia is actually one of the most frequently attacked country in the globe. Surfshark, for instance, reportedly said that we are the 8th most breached country in the 3rd quarter of last year. And we are also seeing a 144% increase in the breach rate in comparisons to the previous quarter, the year before. And it also ranked Malaysia at number 5 in terms of breach density. This is a global ranking. And Kaspersky expect that the cyber attacks in Malaysia would remain on the rise, especially for organizations dealing with personal data in the financial and telecommunications industries. PICOM, which is the equivalent of SDTech for Malaysia, they are a big, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but they represent about 80% of the tech companies in Malaysia. They've produced a report focusing on the cybersecurity landscape, and it was just released in May this year. So they've identified several sectors and categorized the sector risk of these sectors according to the high risk, intermediate risk, and lower risk sectors. So the high risk sectors for Malaysia for cybersecurity threats would be financial services, and then healthcare, critical infrastructures, and energy. The intermediate risk sectors would be telcos, manufacturing, retail, and electronics, whereas the lower risk sectors would be in education, agriculture, and construction. Meaning to say that we have those cybersecurity risks across industries. I think like in traditional sectors would also be the likes of other countries. And there are lots of opportunities for these sectors. But also when you're talking about lots of opportunities, you are also dealing with lots of competitions because everybody will try to get into that sectors. So perhaps you can also look into other lower risk sectors to consider. So these are some of the common cyber threats in Malaysia. This is according to Kroll 2022. The most common cyber threats for companies in Malaysia will be malware and phishing. We are also experiencing password attacks and distributed denial of service, as well as cross-site scripting, insider threats, and man-in-the-middle situations. A recent example of cyber threats that we can share, we were also affected by the CrowdStrike incidents a few days back. Though they are not affecting, I don't think we have any banks affected, local banks. But AirAsia, as well as our rail services for KTMB and KLIA Express were affected, largely affecting their ticketing sales, meaning that their customers cannot buy tickets from their websites because of that incident. And then prior to that, we also have attacks from a hacker on Telekom Malaysia, which is our telco provider, providing mostly the internets and landlines. This was back in January 2034 this year, where they've been the consumer data has been hacked by this hacker who claimed to have control over the data and requested for ransom. They've reported these incidents to the police as well as the necessary organizations. It was unfortunate because that incident happened only a few months after the previous incidents, sometime in July, August the previous year. So it was very frequent. I mean, and of course, the users are very concerned about these situations. So for businesses, this would be the concerns and the actual impact for their business in Malaysia. The most concerns for them would be the data loss, be it for consumer data, employee data, as well as the IP. And then there are also concerns about the business interruptions and costs incurred for those kind of incidents. This is followed by the reputational damage, IP incidents or IP security, as well as ransom payment. Fines arising from the regulatory sanctions would be the lowest of their concerns. Likewise, the actual impact is also similar to their major concerns. So this is the finding from the PCOM cybersecurity landscape reports that was done or released in May this year. The categories of impacted data for cyber threat in Malaysia would be personal, customer, and supplier, followed by the financial and trade secret. And over 60% of users are much more impacted on data concerning photos, emails, work files, name and contact numbers, website defacements, and not being able to access their data. This is some of the cause of breach identified by PCOM through that report. The largest would be for ransomware and malware, followed by social engineering and misconfigured systems. Over 40% of the rest of the respondents reported cause of breach as stolen credentials, email phishing, bot and social media using company email. Largely, 7 out of 10 Malaysian companies are aware on best practices to overcome cyber threats. Most of them are doing review and assessments. There are lots of awareness, educations and training, as well as AI in doing the review and assessment. And they are also doing a response plan. They have lots of ERP, doing data loss prevention, backup and timely restoration process, as well as EDR. They are also doing monitoring, mostly would opt for cloud migrations to decrease the risk of cyber threats. And aside from them, they are also doing security layering. For most of the enterprise in Malaysia, this is the number of their dedicated cybersecurity personnel. 70%, more than 70% would have less than 5 personnel taking care of their business. And then only 7% would have more than 20 personnel. And this might be of interest to Singapore companies. Over 30%, slightly over 30% of Malaysian businesses would spend more than 550,000 ringgit for their annual budgets for the cybersecurity concerns. Most of this is followed by 25% spending between 100 and 250,000 ringgit and 100,000 ringgit. So we have 7% focusing on 400 and 1,000 ringgit, between 251 to 550,000 ringgit. And this is the frequency of security patches and updates for software and systems once enterprise are attacked by cyber threats. Or 35% of them would do security patches and updates immediately. 20% would be doing it on weekly basis. 35% will be doing on monthly basis. 16% are doing on quarterly basis, and 7% would actually focus on doing it lesser than the quarterly frequency. So these are some of the measures taken by the Malaysian companies in addressing cybersecurity threats. Most of them would focus on monitoring their systems, followed by moving to the cloud. They are also increasing budget and spending on cybersecurity enhancements, spending on buying hardware and software security tools. They are also focusing on training their staff. 60% are actually using external cybersecurity specialists, including from consulting firms or cybersecurity consulting firms. 50%, over 50% will buy cyber insurance to protect or to hedge against cybersecurity threats on their business. 49% will be hiring cybersecurity specialists, and the other 49% will be outsourcing the cybersecurity functions. So these are some of the opportunities and recommendations for Singapore companies. There are opportunities for companies that would be leveraging on the legislative initiatives, meaning that we've just introduced the cybersecurity bill, and parts of the requirements for the bill would be frequent cyber drills requirements by NCII entities. And this is the bill that is giving more power to NACSA to develop a robust national cybersecurity framework focusing on governing CNII and enhancing end user compliance. So there are lots of opportunities for cybersecurity providers with regard to this bill, because they are covering a lot of areas. There are 11 sectors altogether, and aside from introducing code of practice and those kind of things, there are also requirements made mandatory on companies locally and multinationals operating in Malaysia to have enhanced cybersecurity framework in their organizations. So it is recommended for companies to engage in partnerships with both public and private entities within the affected sectors. And they can also forge connections with key stakeholders like NACSA, Cybersecurity Malaysia, the MCMC, and Central Bank, our Central Bank, Bank Negara Malaysia, to provide valuable insights. There are also opportunities due to the shifts towards digitalization in Malaysia. As we transition to a digital economy, there are lots of adoptions of various technologies, including robotics, AI, big data, IoT, all those kind of technologies. So with the increased adoptions of hybrid and multi-cloud deployments, it comes with complexity of managing security across diverse environments as well. And Malaysia is also rising as a prominent data center hub in the region, which requires more advanced cybersecurity solutions. It is recommended that companies who can position themselves as a strategic technology partners to align with the Malaysia's digital transformation plan. And it is highly recommended for them as well to collaborate with local partners in order to tap into this opportunity. We are also seeing dynamic demands in Malaysia because the cybersecurity market is relatively considered as matured here, largely vendor-driven with wide array of solutions available. So based on our internal interviews with some of the players and stakeholders in the industry, there are increasing reliance on cloud-based services and digital transactions. And then large corporations in Malaysia would usually have comprehensive cybersecurity frameworks and stringent security policies. It would be recommended for companies to focus on establishing relationships with these large corporations because they will consistently update the cybersecurity needs. And if you are able to provide end-to-end response managed service, it will also be very beneficial for SMEs in Malaysia because this segment of the market would incline towards cost-saving advantages and bundled package options. In terms of training and capacity development, we are seeing lots of these kind of opportunities and collaborations, especially between local and foreign companies nowadays. As Malaysian cybersecurity sector trying to position itself as a regional leader by 2030, lots of training collaborations are happening, not only with the universities and industry leaders, but also with government agencies in Malaysia. So there is a growing demand for cybersecurity training among public and private agencies, as cybersecurity requirements are being more regulated by the regulatory bodies. For this kind of opportunity, it would be recommended for companies who are able to offer advanced cybersecurity courses and training programs to tap on the opportunity. It would be good for this kind of companies to participate in local conference, trade shows, networking events, doing workshops to sort of increase their brand awareness in the market. And the cybersecurity companies can also showcase their expertise in risk assessment and network security strategies to be able to gain the advantage in the market. And there is also growing needs across multiple sectors, especially those that are deeply engaged in the supply chain, such as transportation, logistics, energy, constructions, and retail. So these are key targets for cybersecurity companies as well. If you're able, or if you're offering any solutions that are targeted to these sectors, that would be good. Manufacturing sector is also seeing increasing demand, largely because of the increasing threats on their IP, and because they are doing a lot more into digitalizing their services or processes, including going into IR 4.0 as well as Internet of Things. And so it would be recommended for companies that are offering or targeting these sectors to do a thorough industry-specific research to understand the challenges encountered by the Malaysian business in this sector. Corporate leaders would usually turn to Gartner's Magic Quadrants for guidance when choosing top-tier solutions. So if you have sort of like a competitive analysis, you can possibly position your solutions to these quadrants and see what kind of unique solutions or what kind of competitive advantage that you can offer to Malaysian companies when you approach them. So it is hopeful that by offering tailored solutions, the rate of acceptance by the Malaysian companies to do or deal or use technologies by the Singapore companies will be higher. There are also opportunities in the government sector, largely because the government is trying to do lots of digitalizations on their processes. They are also increasingly embracing digital platforms for service delivery. But again, as any other governments in the world, they have lots of concerns on the data protection, especially due to weak law enforcement and previous data breach incidents reported in Malaysia. For instance, I think a few months ago, our Ministry of Economy tried to push for PADU registrations, which is a platform to enable the governments to sort of have a better data access on people or the public that is credible for subsidies. But there is very low registration rates. I think even to the last minutes, they've tried to push, they are doing lots of promotions, even including trying to offer vouchers for retail vouchers, trying to get the public to register. But again, it's very low registration rates because everybody was concerned about the data breach because of the past incidents involving the government. Which is why NACSA recently introduced a cybersecurity framework for the public sector, which is part of the bill that has been tabled. It will also be recommended for companies who would have chance to collaborate with the Cybersecurity Malaysia and NACSA to try to forge relationships with the ministries and agencies seeking their solutions. But again, if you are trying to deal with the government agencies in Malaysia, it is important for you to realize that they have preference on local security products, obviously for national sovereignty reasons. So if you're looking to work with this segment, it would be good if you can find a local partner and ensure that the products are trusted, confidential, and secure, or you can also collaborate with the local technology partners to create local cybersecurity solutions to target this sector. And lastly, for the opportunities in defense, the Malaysian Ministry of Defense is increasing its emphasis on cybersecurity, digital intelligence, and electromagnetic defense platforms. The ministry now has a Defense Cyber and Electromagnetic Division, BSEP, which is solely focusing on strengthening the cybersecurity defense. And they are doing it by expanding the systems and enhancing secure network connectivity, especially in remote tactical areas. It would be recommended for companies having solutions in this area to collaborate with the Malaysia Defense Cyber and Electromagnetic Division under the Defense Ministry and taking part in cybersecurity events organized by the ministry such as Cyber DSA. So it is hopeful that once companies are able to understand the requirements, that they can match the offering with their solutions. There are a few key challenges for companies, especially Singapore companies, to enter into Malaysia. The cybersecurity landscape in Malaysia is primarily dominated by foreign providers with fewer local players. Unfortunately, I don't have the latest statistics, but the appetite among Malaysian customers would still favoring towards foreign providers. We don't have much local players that are capable of producing local cybersecurity technologies, which is why we are relying more on providers from established companies, especially from the US. I think Singapore has been used to be sort of like a benchmark for Malaysian cybersecurity companies as well. So there could be appetite towards Singapore products, provided the services or the solutions can match their requirements. Malaysia is also a very price-sensitive market. It is cybersecurity, for example, is perceived as a technology risk rather than a business risk. So there is lack of prioritizations when companies are investing into that. The high technology costs often deter investments, resulting in companies opting for basic solutions. However, I think last year, one of the leading cybersecurity companies did a research, and they found out that Malaysia is actually the country that spend most in cybersecurity solutions. I think even one third of the companies are increasing their spending to more than 50% last year, largely because of the increasing threats to their cyber platforms and cyber technologies. They are also in educate infrastructures in Malaysia. If you are familiar with working with the government and critical infrastructure companies in Malaysia, lots of them are actually relying on updated systems. So this is also a challenge for them when they are trying to adopt cybersecurity technology. If you've heard of the incidents or the situations where we had issues with our customs, where they tried to migrate from a system that has been used for the past 30 years, and I think they had some challenge in doing that, and it's kind of an issue that is going to be common, especially when you are speaking with lots of government agencies. So I think that's it for now. I'm not quite sure if I have, okay. So I think I'll pass the floor back to Raj.
Ken, thank you. Thank you, Miss Ely. I think you were wonderful. Thank you for your presentation. For our next segment, we will actually invite all of our panelists here that we have been highlighting here to provide us with their perspectives on navigating opportunities in Malaysia's cybersecurity landscape for Singapore companies. In fact, it is wonderful because not only have we got actual cybersecurity company practitioners and individuals, but we've also gotten Miss Ely, for example, a country manager, and we also have Ms. Tricia from Enterprise Singapore. So we are bringing a plethora of different views just for our audience here today. So joining us on this panel, apart from our moderator, Mr. Kenso, and our panelists, Ms. Ely Salsabila Abdul Razak, we also have the following three remarkable individuals as our panel speakers. And I just want to quickly introduce them. First, we have Miss Tricia Liu. So Miss Tricia Liu is a senior development partner at Enterprise Singapore's Southeast Asia division with a specialization in the Malaysia market. She assists Singapore enterprises in market expansion and facilitates efforts to advance Singapore's bilateral collaborations with Malaysia. And Enterprise Singapore, while it needs no introduction, I will just do a quick one. It is the government agency championing enterprise development. It works with committed companies to build capabilities, innovate, and internationalize. They also support the growth of Singapore as a, as a hub for global trading and startups and build trust in Singapore's products and services. So you know who to go for the moment you want to expand into Malaysia. Yeah? Next, we have Mr. Donald Wee from Data Terminator Private Limited. Again, a wonderful practitioner. Donald Wee founded Data Terminator after more than 20 years, 2 decades, ladies and gentlemen, of security and IT experience with the Ministry of Defense. Armed with extensive IT and security experience, Donald understands the challenges confronting organizations with regards to information leakage, protection for data at rest, data in motion, as well as data in use. Therefore, DT, Data Terminator, was founded to provide specialist solutions in a wide range of secure and comprehensive data destruction equipment that are certified by the US DoD and NSA. DT, in fact, is the first in Singapore to be in full compliance to the required standards to give customers complete peace of mind. In fact, I mean, on our end, we can just give him a round of applause for that wonderful achievement, Donald. It is also the only certified provider for military-grade sanitization practice. And in fact, it is an honor for me as well because Donald has also previously served as honorary secretary of the cybersecurity chapter in SG Tech here with us. And of course, lastly, we have Mr. Victor Lim. In his pivotal role, Mr. Victor Lim excels in establishing and nurturing strategic partnerships, consistently identifying opportunities within the region. His efforts strategically position SoftCheck APAC as a trusted and influential player in the cybersecurity ecosystem. And this not only fortifies SoftCheck's presence, but also grants the company access to new markets, fostering the scalability of the operations. And in fact, today, SoftCheck APAC stands as a stalwart, catering to a diverse clientele in public and private sectors, spanning government, finance, healthcare, utilities, and telecommunications. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Ken So, Ms. Ili Salsabila, Mr. Victor Lim, Mr. Donald Wee, and Ms. Tricia Liu. Over to you, Ken.
Right. Thanks, Raj. Yeah. I think first and foremost, thank you, SG Tech, for making this possible. I see that this is a very interesting combination of experiences, and today we should have a very rich content-based discussion. I mean, government agency, consulting outfit, and also industry veterans. Wow, fantastic combination. Let's have a good learning and sharing session. I think for a start, I'm very tempted to look at more like a little bit of macro level of things. So let me ask ESG on more like strategic perspective of things. Yeah. So Tricia, what strategies would Singaporean cybersecurity firms consider when forming like partnerships with Malaysian counterparts or entering the Malaysian market? Would you be able to share more?
Sure, thanks, Ken, and of course, thanks, Raj, for that very good introduction of all my fellow panelists today. I think before I take your question, Ken, maybe I just set a little bit of context on what Malaysia is, right, to Singapore companies. And when we talk about Singapore companies, of course, it's not just cybersecurity firms, it's across all the different industries that Enterprise Singapore looks at. So Malaysia actually, it's a very unique market, right? All of us know it's our closest neighbor geographically. And we also have very similar cultural, and sometimes business, way of doing business. And this translates very accurately to when Enterprise Singapore, we look at companies that internationalize, right? Actually, Malaysia is the top market. And unsurprisingly, I guess ASEAN is among the top 3 markets. So we see Malaysia first, Indonesia, followed by Vietnam. And for very obvious reasons, right? These are growing economies. So we do have all these different types of companies going in. And of course, they look at different sectors and there's different approaches. So going to your question, Ken, I think what I've or on our side have seen in facilitating Singapore companies' entry into Malaysia, especially for those that do not actually have a brick and mortar, right? You're not selling food, you're not selling consumer products, or you're not opening a factory, right? You're selling software. I would say that there is 3 main areas that companies can look at, and these are also some of the success factors that we've observed. One is, I think, drawing back to Edie's point, you have to know the market and you have to know what you are targeting. So all of these will have to take some time. So companies are encouraged to do your own research, right? Learn about, okay, what sector am I going to go into, and how am I being adding value to that sector that I'm targeting. And that is key, just understanding. And although Malaysia is very near, it's also very important to make, trips down, just immerse yourself in the market and talk to people. So that's point, I think, number 1. Number 2 then is to network. A lot of companies have told us that they've seen success through word of mouth referral, especially in, the software side of things, right? People usually work with the companies that their industry peers have used or trust. So that is one. And across ASEAN, something that we realize is that the region is very relational, right? You cannot go in and just say, okay, this is my proposal and this is my quotation. You have to go in, talk to them, learn about their business, understand what's their motivation and all that. So that takes time and that takes networking. And with that, right, it will go a long way in helping to build up your brand name in the market. And then, of course, for specific localization, if you're getting government projects, for example, like what Ili mentioned in her presentation, it is important to work with local firms. And then the last part, of course, is to differentiate. So again, drawing back to Ili's presentation, a lot of the price sensitivity that we hear of in the market, from our perspective, Enterprise Singapore, when we work with Malaysian companies, right, one common feedback that we hear is, oh, Singapore solutions are a bit too expensive. And when such a comment is given, right, Enterprise Singapore usually asks the Malaysian corporate, why so? Is it because the product is too extensive for you, or you just cannot see how it fits the value that the company is asking for, right? So it's very important for companies to first articulate clearly, what is your value proposition to your client. And second is, of course, understanding how you fit amongst competitors in the market. Yeah. So these are, I think, the 3 main areas that I would say are broad strategies. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tricia. So knowing myself, knowing the market, knowing you, knowing me, network relational, localization, value propositions, right? So with this in mind, would you like to share Enterprise Singapore? How does Enterprise Singapore actually help the commercial entities enter into the markets in Malaysia?
Thanks for that, Ken. So earlier I mentioned we look at over 20 different industries. So actually our KL team, I'm based in Singapore actually. We have a team that's based out of Kuala Lumpur. And for the folks that are familiar with Enterprise Singapore, you will know that we have several overseas offices. And Malaysia actually is one of the first few that was established over 2 decades ago. So how we help Singapore companies go in is we look at it broadly in 2 pools, right? One is the folks that are totally new to internationalization. It's their first time. And earlier I mentioned Malaysia, we see the highest number of companies entering. And a lot of these form the first timers, so to speak, expanding abroad for the very first time. They will choose to go to Malaysia. So what we do is, help to give them a little bit of a market insight, broad market insights, about where the geography specializes in, and of course, providing certain specific context. So banking, for example, incorporation lawyers, consultants, feasibility study folks, and earlier, of course, Ili mentioned we work very closely with Orissa as well. So that's one bit. The other bit would be really to help them to kind of uncover certain opportunities where across the board Singapore companies can plug in. And this could be cybersecurity, this could be other areas, right? That goes beyond cybersecurity. And how we do that is really by, and this is of course championed by my KL team, talking to the Malaysian corporates and understanding, how we can play that support role and Singapore companies can come in. And of course, the last bit would be really to look at working with our government counterparts. So from a G2G perspective, understanding certain new regulations that they might be putting out, and if there are any potential opportunities or potential threats to Singapore and Singapore companies. Yeah.
Sure, thanks. Now that we know a little bit about our end, right? So maybe I'm now very tempted to ask Ellie about from their end. From a consulting perspective, how hence, I know just now you mentioned about the trend and opportunities in your deck. Maybe with reference to what Tricia mentioned, what are the more detailed opportunities and trend that you would like to share with the potential partnerships that are coming in from Singapore?
Thanks, Ken, for the questions. If you're talking about the emerging trends and opportunities in the Malaysian cybersecurity market, especially for Singapore companies,
Sure.
This is Malaysia is very much an open market, so everybody is trying to come into, trying to sell, trying to work, trying to collaborate, not only to sell in the country itself, but also trying to make it as a regional hub.
Right.
But the issue is our talents or our local talents, we are quite actually in shortage situations. And because of this incoming foreign companies buying for local talents, as well as companies outside trying to buy for our local talents, so we are seeing lots of brain drain issues. We are having a shortage of about 13,000 cybersecurity personnel. So we are targeting 27,000 by 2025, but we are only currently at 13,000. So that is an area where lots of opportunities will be available. If you are able to provide courses or trainings focusing on cybersecurity sector, that would be a good key to liaise with or to tap on. If you are looking, for instance, there are a few companies abroad that are working together with not only the private sectors in Malaysia, but they're also working with the government agencies. For instance, I think very recently, last year, we had BlackBerry collaborating with the Malaysian government, trying to set up a cybersecurity center of excellence. That agreement was signed in May, and the COE would be focusing more on developing the talents in Malaysia. We are also looking at having lots of courses provided by local universities in collaborations with lots of foreign institutions, some foreign institutions and organizations from abroad. At the moment, we are seeing lots of this coming from US and the UK, as well as Netherlands. We don't see any from Singapore yet, so it would be good if you have any, because I think the appetite is there. The Malaysian companies are investing. We are in the shortage of talents, so that is on the talents aspect. And also deriving from that talent issues, we are also currently trying to navigate the current threats that we are having by doing outsourcing. But again, the challenge in outsourcing is because of the regulations requiring companies to work with local providers. And especially if you are talking about government agencies, there are also requirements to work with BUMI status companies. So if you are able to find this kind of partners, and this partner is willing to work with you in offering the solutions, to tie the solutions together with what they are currently offering, that would be a great chance for you. So the market would be ready for your solutions. Just like what as you mentioned, Tricia mentioned earlier, I think lots of Singapore companies, where they thought that Malaysia is quite close, they would always consider the market as kind of similar to Singapore, which is not true. We are seeing lots of complaints. We are receiving lots of complaints among Malaysian companies, for instance, because most of the Singapore companies, when they come and try to sell, they expect to close the deal after 1 or 2 meetings, which is not going to happen here. This is the market which values lots of relationship building. So they won't buy from you unless if they trust you. And in order to build that trust, you need to have closer relationships. Try to be here more often. Companies who love to buy from someone that they can see often, someone that is willing to come whenever they call. So that kind of situations.
Thank you for this very interesting and pointed, insightful information, especially the training side. Yeah, I think as a good neighbor, I think our Singapore business entities should really do more. Yeah, maybe more visit Ken in Malaysia. Yeah. So, okay, my next question is, having known all these requirements, what about the culture, the ethos, and the mindset of the local customers? Would they be very open to like overseas service providers? Is there any thinking that we better use the local ones? Yeah.
In terms of that kind of mindsets, Malaysian appetite is leaning towards buying from abroad. They will always consider international products to be better than local products, which is why the government enforce that kind of regulations where they can only buy from local suppliers. So for these foreign companies to sell, they will need to find local partners to work with. But in terms of the appetite, the Malaysian buyers would usually favor internationally recognized solutions, especially if they are already cases used within the region. For example, if you are using or if you're offering solutions that has been used in neighboring countries, for instance, Indonesia or Vietnam, that would be a good point for you to share with them, trying to convince that this is technology that is being used in the region. Because naturally they would like to see what would be the case from that, the impact especially of using those kind of solutions. And again, it differs between government and public sectors. The government and the private sectors. The private will be much more open in adopting new technologies, regardless of where it comes from. But for the public, they are more reluctant to do so because there are always concerns on data security. What would happen? Would they have sufficient talents to sort of use new technologies and those kind of things? So it would be easier if you can try to sell to local private entity first, and then use that local entity case to refer or to do sales for government sectors.
I see. Thanks for this feedback. I think now about time to hear from the horse's mouth, our veterans. Donna, I know Donna for some time, a very respected veteran and practitioner in business, in the business landscape. By hearing this, maybe Donna, can you share with us your experiences in this area, especially like challenges and so far what has been working well with you or what somehow did not work out? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, SG Tech, for inviting me in this panel of discussion and sharing. Maybe I give a little bit background of why we set up a company in Malaysia in 2023, early 2023. We start with pre-COVID. We used to have customers in Singapore, and they wanted us to. They have some branches in Malaysia, so they wanted us to do the job. So on and off, we'll just send our guys, bring our equipment over, and complete a job within a few days or a week. Then we come back. And during the COVID time, we have similar equipment, but requirements, but we are not able to cross over. So there's this issue, customer, because of some business operation reason, they want to ensure that their storage device, their servers, all these, they need to clear. And we are not able to go over. So we start to look for friends to introduce us, partners over there that can do the job for us. But apparently, customers only want data terminator. They don't want any other people. So we have some issue because we have some standard SOP kind of thing that customers are so used to what we are doing. So after COVID, then there are some more requests came in. So we thought the opportunity is there. So it'd be good for us to set up a company, and also the timing was right because colleague was formerly from Malaysia. They were in Singapore, and then during the COVID 3 years, didn't get a chance to go back. So we decided to send the staff to go over. And the reason also because what Miss Ili has mentioned, that when you are one heartbeat away from customers, it's easier to get things done, especially when you are with the local partners. Now, a lot of things you can just sort it out. And a Malaysian understand their own culture better. Even we are close neighbors, Singapore and Malaysia, we like the same type of food, but the taste still slightly different, right? So yeah, that's why we set up the office there. And then also important is also that it's very common communication, networking, relationship, and frequent visit of each others to get things done. And then the setting up of the office in Malaysia do helps a lot to connect with customers. Yeah, these are the good points that we experience.
Interesting, valuable information. So maybe now let's turn to Victor. And what about your experience and challenges so far you faced? Like what Donna say that maybe we all eat nasi lemak but the taste a bit different. So how would you handle these type of differences and gaps and do well in Malaysia?
Thanks, Ken, and thanks, Donna, and the panelists as well. I will agree to all what you mentioned, that we are very familiar with Malaysia. So when we want to expand to Malaysia, one of the traps that we always fell in is to trying to see that they're quite the same, but think about it, we are very different. I mean, because we're under different system, different leadership as a country, for decades. So for software ends, actually similar to Donald, we started Malaysia just to build the operational team due to the regional business growth. And we went into Malaysia after the business mission from SG Tech last year. And then we were able to meet up with some network and all this. I would say that the what have been working for us and what have not been working for us is actually the same issue, which is people. People will be the heart of everything, because if you are meeting the right partner, right team, definitely can drive the success. But on the flip side, if we are meeting the people that we don't understand their culture, and it could be a distraction for the business as well, and that could be a biggest hurdle for us. Yeah. So I think it's not easy. I mean, the team from Softchat also still figuring out right now how to build the right relationship and how to really understand the local context. Yeah, this thing I need to learn more from Ili's side and Tricia as well. Thanks.
Right, interesting. So now we hear all around. I think pointedly, if let's say we look at the training and talents needs of Malaysia, now it will be quite interesting to look back at Singapore, enterprise Singapore side. How would we use the government support to really focus on this area to establish win-win for both sides, supply our talents training and then help Malaysia uplift this portion as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. So I think across the board, right, across Singapore government, there are different agencies that are offering different initiatives. I think everybody's probably most familiar with Skills Future, SSG, right, where you have your own individual training courses, and employers also could tap on that to train their employees. I will share a little bit more from where Enterprise Singapore provides certain support. One will be for companies, Singapore companies that are looking to develop their talent pipeline for overseas growth. And one of the programs that we've offered is something called the Global Ready Talent Program, GRT, we call it in short. So that supports Singapore companies to groom future pipeline of talent, right, that can be hired by both your local as well as your overseas office. So under this program, what Enterprise Singapore does is we support up to 50% of money stipend for you to send an intern to both and that intern must have a stint at both your local and overseas office. And what this does, right, really is to help you to plan ahead, right? Instead of fighting with everybody else for that current pool of people, right? Let's go to the schools and look at, could we then groom younger talent and develop that pipeline ahead of time? That's one. And then I think just earlier this month, there is also a skills pathway that was launched by CSA together with Skills Future. And this really looks at developing specific skill sets for the industry, which I think from SG Tech's perspective, or even folks like Victor and Donald, from the industry practitioner perspective, your contribution to some of these programs will be very helpful, right? Bringing your staff over, feedbacking to agencies about what are some of the specific skill sets that maybe your company needs and see lacking. If I may, I also want to touch a little bit about what we've seen in Malaysia. And I think like what Victor said, right, the talent part is a challenge. And I think recently we've heard from PM Anwar himself that Malaysia does have a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. So they are, I think, about halfway to their 2025 mark of 25,000 trained professionals specifically for this sector. So for folks that are operating in Malaysia, I would say that they're taking a lift out of what the Global Ready Talent Program is, right? You could also approach universities and tertiary institutes in Malaysia that could partner with you. So we do have these universities contacts that have shared with us that actually they are interested to work on specific skill sets for talent in the I guess developing future talent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we'll touch on quite a fair bit on the talent portion, because that is interesting. Maybe now we think a little bit beyond that, across sectors. So we like to ask Ellie also, from that perspective, let's say looking beyond training, what are the area that like specific industry? Is there specific industry that you will recommend that that is quite likely to be successful for people to come in from the perspective of partnership and investment, maybe JV or M&A or whatever? Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. With regards to sectors of interest for Malaysian cybersecurity, especially in attracting investments or partnerships, right? We are still looking at the traditional sectors like FSI and healthcare. And this is largely due to the data concerns and the criticality of their infra. But we are also seeing increasing requests or appetite towards emerging sectors, such as retail and manufacturing. And this is largely because of their concerns on having lots of digitalization ongoing, as well as IP protections, especially for semiconductors companies in Penang. So this would be some sectors that would be good for cybersecurity offerings. And obviously, like what the panelists also mentioned, the needs would actually differ. So you cannot really rely on having one sector and trying to sell, but you really need to understand what would be their challenge and try to match what you have. If you are trying to offer all that you have, then their main concerns will be on the pricing. But if you are able to match, provide the kind of values that they are lacking, then it will be good areas for you to do investments and partnerships.
Sure. Thanks. So back to hearing from the practitioner now. Let's see. Just now, Donna mentioned about local partners and such. Yeah, maybe we check with Donna whether is there any specific strategies in your partnership formation that you would recommend, the do's and don'ts kind of thing, yeah, from your experience.
Okay. Yeah. Before I start, maybe I'd like to thank Enterprise Singapore, Tricia. I think Singapore company who wants to go overseas, it's good to tap on the grant. We make use of the MRA. I think everybody is familiar. It helps to save some costs for your investment. I mean, when going overseas, we are always looking at two possibility. One is partnership, no, either joint venture or partners. They are good and bad, pro and cons. I think everybody know. And if you want to set up a company, there'll be more things, regulatory requirements, bankings, all these things. So yeah, so these are the things that we have to consider. So for just now I mentioned is for us is not that we really want to go in, was because customers need us to be there. So I think it's easier for us in that sense lah. So as for the challenges, right? Kent, you asked for challenges.
Strategies also.
Strategy, yeah. Actually, strategy, there's I mean, not much of strategy. It's just that we are SME, we are small. We don't have much financial support, no? Besides Singaporean company, we are quite lucky. At least ESG is helping us. So we will look into how we can leverage with the partners. We cannot fight the big players. We are not the only companies that's doing that, but we have to find a strategy of be different and slightly different and offer better, more efficient way of doing things as compared. And why customer want us to do that was want us to be there was also when we try to get the some of the partners there were to help our customers. The feedback was different, no, not very efficient, not up to the mark. So they want us to be there. So that
I see.
that is the strategy. I mean, you do your best. No, that customer only want you to do it, and rather than any other people. So I think that's what we think is the strategy lah. Customer want us. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks. I think I recall Victor mentioned before, like this portion is very close to his heart. So let's hear from him whether this resonate very closely to him. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm doing the business development side for the company. So I mean, before we talk about the Malaysia context, whenever we are meeting someone, we want to talk about partnership. We talk about like, let's partner. Nobody would reject the idea of partnering, but how many partnership can be formed and really established in the long run is very rare, right? The reason is very simple, because we always think about more on the benefit of our side, not the very mutual kind of benefits. And how to balance this 50-50 is very hard, because even the way they were using a strength from both legs and hands are very different. So to achieve that kind of mutual benefits is very, very hard, right? So back to this context of how to build a partnership in Malaysia. I think that as a Singaporean or people that in Singapore, we are naturally thinking that what we can get from Malaysia, right? We cross the custom, we just go there and just, okay, cheaper petrol, cheaper grocery, cheaper services. There's always the mindset of what we can get from them, right? So when we are doing a business, we go there, we should, I mean, it's a lesson for me to learn as well. I mean, I learned that earlier, is switch the mindset of how can we do for them, right? How can we do for the ecosystem as a Singaporean based company? Don't just go into the market standing tall and saying that Singapore is better because of our currency. We should go there and respect them and trying to go low and see what are the things that we can value add to them, you know, based on the situation over here in Singapore. Maybe we can value add certain things to them in terms of policy, in terms of standards and all this. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. There's a saying that, yeah, first must take care of customer first, then they will take care of you. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So now I'm very tempted to ask also, slightly go back to macro, back to Enterprise Singapore, more like critical success factor, CSF. So then if you look from a CSF perspective, do you see a common pattern of those people who become very successful in Malaysia?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So I think very good question, and I think that also sums up a lot of the discussion points that all the different panelists have spoke about today, right? From our point of view, really, it's two things. One is, I think what everyone here have briefly touched on a little bit, right, is to be present there, right? And I think Victor, Donald, and Ili both mentioned, all three mentioned this. Sometimes the trust factor is important, right? And they want to be able to call you and see you. So that's one thing that we've seen. And they would also like to be able to have that assurance that you have a local sendirian berhad. You know, you can't run away tomorrow lah. As in there's a local law that's governing the partnership. So that's one. The other thing is, again, what everyone has mentioned, right? While there are similar cultural similarities in that sense, Malaysia is still a different country, different geography, different laws, and it's a very big country, very, very much bigger than Singapore, right? So across the whole country, there is state, there is federal, you know, different stakeholders to work with and balance. So Singapore companies cannot really operate like they are in Singapore, right? They have to have the tenacity. You know, you have to be able to navigate and be willing to navigate some of these uncertainties in the market. And I think this success factor does not just apply to Malaysia, but across anywhere outside of Singapore, especially in developing markets. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, points to ponder. So yeah, back to Eli. Yeah, Tricia mentioned about like consider the framework and regulation. So let's say we switch this regulation and think about the Cybersecurity Act 2024, right? How would this actually help, or maybe for any advice for us to navigate along this line to help in the businesses? Yeah.
Okay. I think the bill itself is very new. So everybody is waiting to see what will be the impact, especially on towards the end of the line, which is companies and enterprises. But we are expecting, especially for multinationals and foreign companies, to see more compliance requirements due to this bill being enforced. For instance, there are requirements for companies, especially those that are registered as entities under the concerned 11 sectors, to have regular cybersecurity drills. There are also requirements to do regular reporting. Whatever incidents that are happening, they are expected to report. There are also requirements for them to have certified professional cybersecurity personnel managing or taking care of their cybersecurity needs in each and every company. So I think that that is one of the reasons why the government is currently ramping up on having more talents to be able to provide or to be able to support this kind of requirements endorsed by the bill. So it would be interesting if I would say based on this bill, I think it is expected to have more needs for cybersecurity among the Malaysian businesses. So it will be a good opportunity for foreign companies as well to do or to provide this solution.
Sure. So if we look at the other side of the spectrum, I would like to hear from the practitioners again. The regulation can be opportunities for cybersecurity service providers, but maybe in a general, a broader scale, let's say Donna and Victor, have you ever find that certain regulation is challenging and becoming a hurdle in the landscape? Yeah.
Okay, I speak first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think regulatory requirements for my data sanitization point of view is good because why? There's certain standard like PDPA, GDPR. Singapore is OSA. You must do certain thing at certain standard, then it's considered, no? And then the software or whatever equipment need to be certified. So that's good. From business point of view, I have an interesting when we first started. Okay, I think is with the banks. Very strange. I don't know any one of you encountered that because when we do some job, we quoted in US dollar. So in the customers in Malaysia supposed to pay US dollar to our company. I mean DT Malaysia in US dollar, but they are not allowed to. They say this the banking rules. When
Oh,
you are in Malaysia, you're supposed to pay in ringgit rather than in US dollar. Is it true, Miss Ely?
Yep, we are also having that kind of situation. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
true.
So I don't understand because when in Singapore, no problem. Huh? You just quote them US dollar, they'll pay you in US dollar. So that makes a little bit complicated. I mean, you have to convert, but strange. We don't understand what is the rationale. So I think this is one of the area that I thought, yeah. I mean, besides that, where we are doing so far, we're not done for any government agency, but some of the government related company in Malaysia, they also want their locals. No, it must be Malaysian, maybe security cleared, all this. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we need to set up a company in Malaysia, engage locals to serve their, I mean, our customers there. Yeah.
interesting. What about Victor? Do you have like this type of observation before?
Just a quick one, maybe just a bit on top of what Donna mentioned.
Sure.
For our end, as a business owner, it's more towards the tax and the accounting kind of regulations. We can't expect, it's like the same as in Singapore, because in Malaysia side it's a little bit more complex, and I would say that there could be some gray area as well. So we really need the expert in Malaysia to advise us. And sometimes when we ask the expert, they can't actually tell us also. They need to ask around in the ecosystem, try to confirm that, because sometimes the policy and the standards may not be so clear. So for this portion, soft check is very simple. We just outsource expert, and yeah, that's the portion.
I see. Okay, I think we have like 4 or 5 minutes left, so probably good to take and look at the Q&A side of things. Yeah. So we see the first question from James Chia. He has 2 questions. Say the first one is, how is the acceptance level of cloud-based solution or SaaS service in Malaysia company? Is there any specific data residency requirement, meaning ring-fence the data within Malaysia? That's first question. And second one is about, is there any incentive or subsidies to SME in Malaysia to taking up cybersecurity solutions similar to Singapore's grants like PSG grants? Yeah, I reckon that maybe this is more for Eli.
Right. So I think I'll go to the second question first.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we don't have PSG-like grants for Malaysia. So everybody or every cybersecurity investments will be coming from the company themselves. However, we do have some digitalizations grants, but again, this is not as much. So companies complain that the value is very low. They can't really utilize that fund. But again, back to the talent and development sides, there are, I think there is an equivalent in Singapore, but we call it HRDF, the Human Resource Development Fund. So that one is, lots of companies are using it to enhance or improve their cybersecurity personnel, especially by getting them to do trainings and getting professional certificates. So yeah, that would be the areas of funding situations. For the level of acceptance on cloud-based solutions, we have lots of awareness and lots of companies are accepting cloud-based solutions, largely because we are also learn a lot from COVID experience. It's not necessary for you to be on premise. Lots of things can be done on cloud and transferred on cloud. But there is a requirement, data residency requirements in Malaysia. So especially if you're dealing with healthcare, for instance, patients' data must remain in Malaysia and everything, which is why government is focusing on having more data centers set up in Malaysian land.
I see. Okay. So I think in the interest of time, it's about time to wrap up. And before we wrap up, I typically like to ask the panel, what is your one-liner takeaway for the audience so that they can go back and use them, so that at least they spend the time in a worthy manner here. So maybe let's go one round. Tricia, your take on this? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I think if I were to say one line for the audience who are looking to expand into Malaysia, it will be to do your research and be persistent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Victor?
What can we do for them? So that's my one line.
Okay, all right, good. Donna?
Okay, for me is as SME, I think I will not go into a new country unless my customers want me to do it, or I already have a customer.
Good
Rather
one.
than when you don't know exactly how to start, kind of thing. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
with
my
an end in
own
mind.
lesson. Thank you.
I see. Thank you very much. Ellie? Yes.
My message to the Singapore companies: don't give up. Always try to enter. There is opportunity for you here as long as you are able to find it and keep on looking on that opportunity.
Okay, okay, here we come. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the panel for the very insightful sharing. I think we enjoy a lot, very enriching sharing and learning session. Yeah, thank you. And I will hand this over to Raj right now. Yeah, thank you.
So I think for our audience, let's give our panelists here a warm round of applause as well. I think they've been fantastic. Thank you, Ken, for moderating the panel. Thank you to each and every one of our panelists. In fact, one thing that I forgot to mention, which I just realized as I was looking at our panel for our SG Tech side, is that we have our chair of the CSC chapter. We have a co-opted EXCO member of the current CSC cybersecurity chapter, and we have our ex-honorary secretary as well. So almost feels like 2 or 3 generations of wonderful knowledge and inspiration is here. And of course, we have Miss Ely and Miss Tricia as well from Orissa and Enterprise Singapore. Thank you again for your depth of wonderful knowledge and sharings as well. And for our audience as well, I hope you've been benefited with our insightful presentation, engaging Q&A, and we hope that this session has been useful and you have gained valuable takeaways. So please continue to stay updated with SG Tech's plethora of engagements through our social media channels. But right before that, essentially, I think we have our upcoming business missions conducted by our internationalization team, and we warmly welcome you, each and every one of you, to join us and be part of our wonderful business missions. We want to give you essentially, 5 qualified business leads and help you and work with you to co-create your entry into these wonderful markets. So we have our upcoming business missions. You can see here, we are going to RSA in San Francisco. That is one of our most awaited and highly sought after conferences. And we want to be able to go there as one SG Pavilion. And of course, we have our upcoming business missions to UK, London, United Kingdom, as well as Thailand with the CyberSec Asia exhibition. So do scan the QR code right now to be able to register your interest, and we'll be able to follow up with you shortly. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. Meanwhile, please also join us in our community here. Be part of our NUS TIG Collaboration Center Cybersecurity Catalog. So let's continue to grow and develop our community and not only stay in touch with each other, but also stay updated about upcoming events, industry research, talking points, new events, etc. Next, please. And of course, most importantly, we are SG Tech, so please feel free, please do continue to stay updated with our content via our SG Tech social media site. We have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have a plethora of different channels in which we continue to be able to provide value to each and every one of our wonderful audience here, including all of you, as well as our 1,400, nearly 1,400 tech firms that we've been working with closely over the years. So stay tuned, stay in touch, stay connected, and more importantly, join us in being able to continue creating value. So once again, for our audience, thank you for joining us in today's session. We would also like to thank our partners once again, Cyber SG TIG Collaboration Center, Orisa International and Enterprise Singapore for their support in making this webinar possible. And with that, thank you very much, and let's have an enjoyable day ahead together.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.